Okay, take care. Okay, guys, hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Um, Nice to see you all. I know everybody except Christopher. And you all know each other. Mari, Stella, Victoria, and Lisa kind of know each other, right? The way one does. And John is a student at Swarthmore. And Christopher, I don't know where you are.
Well, right now I'm in transit between a couple of institutions right now, so that's kind of up in the air. But I have an associate's degree in liberal arts right now, and
Okay.
looking to start my junior year somewhere.
And how much Latin have you done?
Well, I've had 2 years of college Latin and a couple of years of high school Latin as well, so
Okay.
a little rusty.
All right. Well, we'll see how this goes. John's just coming off of exactly 1 year of Latin, so this is totally who the class is designed for. And Lisa and Victoria, at least, are kind of like, and I think also Maristella, are a little overqualified, but that's good too. So unless we can get Meredith in there, and Meredith, I'm really sorry if you're out there. We had you a minute ago. I guess we should just start. Anybody want to volunteer?
I was volunteered. That's fine.
Well,
Is it the first two?
it's not easy. I think it's a difficult way to start. But why don't you just start and let's see how it goes.
Okay. How far am I going?
I guess 1-1. Why don't you try 1-1 and then see if Victoria wants to kick in at 1-2?
Okay.
Are we going by the sign-up sheet then, or?
Well, we have, and then we'll get onto the sign-up sheet when it's your turn, Christopher. But since we don't have technology, we've lost Meredith, which is very unfair because she's prepared it and everything. But that's how life goes, I guess. Okay. So I'm very sorry that we don't have Bruce. And I hope Karen is watching. We're acquiring viewers massively. We now have 11, so that's exciting. So people are finding it, I guess. So in full awareness that this is kind of a pretentious, difficult beginning, this is the hardest Latin that the medieval Latin class has seen, really, I think. Let's give it a try. Take it away, Lisa.
All right. So, those who fought in a naval, or who are about to fight, were about to fight, or prepared to fight in a naval battle, first, in the port and on the calm sea, bend their knees, pull their oars, and prepare their iron hands and hooks. And I'm not quite sure why this is accusative. And the soldiers placed on the deck with hanging step and slipping foot. Okay. So, and they accustom the soldiers placed on the deck with hanging step and slipping foot to stand firmly.
Good. Very good.
So that what they Didico? Is that similar to Deco?
It's from Disco, right? It's what they have learned.
Okay. So that what they have learned in the likeness of a fight, in a real struggle, they will not, I don't know this verb, sorry.
Just be afraid. They wouldn't be scared.
Yep.
Right. So it's a purpose clause. They do this in order not to be afraid in a real fight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the quod in simulacra, the dedicurrent, is, I think, a relative clause of characteristic, the kind of thing that they might have learned in a fake fight. Um, uh, they won't be afraid in because they have learned in a fake fight, they won't be afraid in a real one.
Mm-hmm.
What did you get for flectunt gubernacula up at the top?
Oh, I was totally thinking a different word. So they bend their oars.
Well, they bend their steering oars. So they bend their rudders and they pull their oars and they get ready with their boat hooks and they get the soldiers all ready on the ship. It's all a very elaborate metaphor, which I've never really seen before. It's just a very pompous way of saying we need to practice, right? Good. Any questions? I don't have any way of getting questions. I'm obviously on the wrong page too, because I'm not getting any kind of feed for questions. So clearly this is going to have to be kind of a not very successful first hangout. We're not doing it right.
Oh, you know what, William? On the left-hand side of the screen, when you like move your cursor over the screen, there's
Yeah.
a little like comment bubble shaped thing that says Q&A, and I just clicked on it, and now I can see a bunch of questions and
Oh.
comments.
But then everything else went away. But never mind. Okay. Ooh, wow. Yes. Nandini says, could you take the quad clause as the object of Petronesca? That sounds right. Do we think that's right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Nandini. Nandini's totally overqualified. She's like a professor. So but that's good too. And then there's stuff about the link. I don't have any answers to the questions about links, I'm afraid. I feel terrible. All about links. I'm just working video. Well, it's nice to see everybody there. Meredith is there somewhere. So Meredith, you can come back in. Welcome. But I guess failing that, Victoria, do you feel like pushing on?
Okay. So also I, who have long been silent because he made me be silent, one to whom my word is a torment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so therefore I, who've long been silent, long to or desire at first to try things out in a small work, pretty dubious translation, but to try something out in a small work and as an example or for example, to cleanse some rust from my tongue, or from the tongue, so that I may be able to try or to embark on a broader history.
Yes. Good. Perfect. Okay. Christopher.
Here.
Exciting. This is an actual assigned student all ready to go. Welcome to the internet. Welcome to medieval Latin and all that. Take it away.
For I have disposed myself to writing, if the Lord nevertheless will give me enough life, or at least if my haters will give up pursuing me, fleeing and closed up, as I am in this monastery, from the arrival of the Savior, even until our age, that is, from the apostles even to the scum of this age, in what way and through whom Christ's church was born and grew up, increased by persecutions, and was crowned by martyrs. And after he came to the foremost Christians, how and through whom the church was made greater in power and riches, but lesser in virtues. but these matters at other times.
Mm-hmm.
Now let us explain what is imminent.
Good. Very good. The one detail that's, I think, actually quite important, I think that we could have capitalized principes, although it's not normally capitalized, and I should have glossed it clearly. It means the emperors. So in other words, he's giving a quick history of the church. You get the persecutions, you get the martyrdoms, and then you get the conversion of Constantine and his successors. And after the church, after the power went over to the Christian emperors, and then, of course, instead of, this is, I think, quite important, instead of that being what you might call the happy ending, which it is for, like, Eusebius, gets the history of Christianity down to Constantine and then all is well. For Jerome, that's just another stage, and of course, power, you have all of this corruption after we have the Christian emperor. So it's kind of a cynical remark about his own day, and a cynical remark about Christian emperors that you might not have expected. That was very good. We have questions too. I've covered up by this. I have this thing here, but I can't. I don't want to click on it. Some question about the parenthetical comment. I can't answer that at the moment. We really need Bruce and Karen to do the detailed language questions.
Well, I made a couple of parenthetical remarks in here that were not in the original text for the second. So for one, I answered your note about him being in the monastery, being closed up, fleeing and closed up.
Right.
And then secondly, I just repeated the how and through whom the church, the second clause to make that.
Right. I don't think that's what she's complaining about. I think she's complaining about probably my notes, but
Okay.
I'll have to brood about that in the non-on-air tranquility that comes after this event. I find it very hard to think on my feet with this camera here and everything. And total strangers, right? That's hard too.
William, Bruce just posted in the Q&A.
I'm sorry?
Bruce just posted he wants you to pin him.
That suggests that I know how to do that. How do I do that? Anyone know?
If you go to the top of the screen, so I know all of the little symbols disappear when you're not moving your cursor around.
Yeah.
But if you put your cursor on the screen, up at the top, there's a little person with a plus sign next to them to invite people.
Oh, that one, right. That's right. I forgot about that one. Okay, great. Oh, and we could have...
I just found that.
I can invite the whole circle again, so some of you maybe that'll work.
Now, is this hangout going to go until 8 or 9:15 y'all's time, or is it going to go a little later? Or?
It might go a little later if anybody wants to hang on.
Okay. I'm going to have to head out in a couple of minutes, but I may rejoin later.
That's fine. You've done, quit while you're ahead. You've done great, right? Just get in there, be successful, and then leave.
By the way, can I comment on the parenthetical comment question?
Sure.
Would it be a late Latin thing to not have the third person singular nominative, like a pronoun? I assume is what this question is about, because the verb becomes fake it, so it can't be me, the author, I would think. So would it be odd not to have a nominative pronoun or name or something standing in to show who the subject is?
I don't know. I wouldn't have said that it was a late Latin thing. I think it's a rhetorical thing. Right? He's got that whole intrusion of somebody spoken of in the abstract is obviously kind of overwrought and, as I say, rhetorical. I don't know that it's particularly late. Because the celere just depends on fake it, right?
Yes, and it's almost like he who shall be nameless.
Right.
He made me be silent, to whom my word is
right.
tormenting or accursed.
Right. So I think that's an answer again. So has Bruce? I didn't invite it, so nobody got successfully invited. Let me try adding Bruce by name.
I'm probably gonna have to leave, but instead of leaving the hangout, I'll just mute my place because I had calculated this so my children wouldn't be back home, and now they're back home.
Sorry.
So I'll go and come back.
Okay.
And I'll probably do the same, but for other reasons, obviously.
Okay. No, it's not obvious at all. Okay, sure. Well, let's move on. We'll just make the best of this. For what it's worth, I don't think these cameras and these computers are nearly as good as they ought to be. But I was expecting big improvements over the past year. Bruce does seem to be arriving, which is good. But let's go on. Where are we? Victoria.
It's the section I actually prepared, I think.
Right.
So starting ridiculous, the hamlet of Maronia stands about 30 miles to the east from Antioch, the Syrian city, and is not nearly so grand. This, translating with the late note, this right. After many overlords or patrons, while I was a young man while I tarried as a young man in Syria, came or devolved into the possession of my friend, the Bishop of Evagrius.
I think just the Bishop of Evagrius, that's his name.
Bishop Evagrius, whom for this reason I've just named, that I may make it clear when we get to the new thing, the next thing, what I'm about to, which I am about to write about, so that I may be clear when I get to this thing that I'm about to write about. I'm not sure what he means by that.
Well, that was perfect, except the unde nosem. I guess I should gloss that better. I should make clear how I know what I know, whence I know what I'm about to write about. So I've mentioned Evagrius.
Oh, okay.
Show unde, whence I know, whence I learned what I'm about to write.
Okay. There was a certain old man, Malchus by name, whom we in Latin would be able to call or would call king, Syrian by nationality and language, but in truth, indigenous or a local to that place, of that place.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I think that was the end of my...
That's the end of your thing?
Well, I think so. I had it to...
So, yeah. That's obviously more controlling than I planned to be.
Greetings, all.
Hi, Bruce.
Oh, what happened?
I have no idea. I mean, part of it is that I no longer have a techie right next to me looking at my screen and telling me what to do.
But it's funny that you pinged a bunch of people, but I never got a ping.
I know.
I mean, a bunch of people came in and you started, but
right, I don't understand that. And the people that I pinged aren't all here anymore, so it's a different bunch. So I totally don't understand, and we can talk about.
I've been listening along on the YouTube more or less since you were in the first sentence. Did anybody ask about pendente gradu, or shall I just keep my mouth shut and we can go on?
We're happy to hear about it.
Well, I thought that the way I had a slightly different idea of what he was doing with those two different ablative phrases, because the notes seem to think that they were both about basically uh, footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
See, I took the first one as being about a moving deck, a
Oh,
sloping position or a hanging position. So I had the idea of these guys, sitting in the port, rocking the boat back and forth and spraying as much water over the decks as they could to simulate what an actual,
that may be
sea battle would be like.
right.
I don't know. It just a thought I had when I looked at it. It's a fooler because gratis can, of course, mean that, but
Right. So, could Gratus be the ladder, like a little rope? I don't know.
I think I mean I think it really is the decks, but it's the position of the decks
Mhm.
The grade.
or the oh yeah, even grade, yeah.
I like it.
With it has it has an overhanging grade. What
Yeah.
is it? Signs for trucks say steep grade.
Right. Okay. Good.
Just a thought. I know you keep notes on the notes, so. And
Um,
I was glad you decided Hick referred to Viculus.
okay. So, why don't I? I don't know if Alexandra is out there. I think Jamie Wheeler's out there. I could try and ping them and see if they want to come in. They both volunteered to sort of fill in translation. I'll see it. I'm not very good at doing anything to this. Uh, Alexandra,
Hi,
come.
John. Hi, Maristella. I don't know if we've met. I'm Bruce.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. We did meet briefly last summer, but I wasn't able to finish the
Right.
translation with you guys.
Were you overseas last summer? Was that part of the trouble?
No, I was just having good old technical difficulties. My computer
Uh,
is kind of old now. I have a nicer one. I'm hoping that will solve it.
well, apparently all the nice computers in the world doesn't necessarily make Google Hangout work easily. Ah, there's Jamie.
Oh, right, with the cat. That's a different cat, isn't it?
I don't know. Now
Yeah.
she's got two Jamies. Both of them muted.
Uh, Victoria, do you want to keep going since you were sort of, I don't know why I stopped you in the middle, stopped the assignment there.
There was also an old woman, extremely decrepit old woman, in cohabitation with him. And now she was near to death. She seemed to be near to death.
Wait. I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing somebody translating loudly, and
Are
okay.
have you still got the
Oh yes, I've
Google
still got
the YouTube going?
yes. Okay, I turned it off now. Okay, that's better.
One technical problem solved.
Good one, Bruce.
Yes, it was very odd because I could hear people talking quietly and somebody translating very loudly. So,
Victoria, continue. Why don't you continue to translate loudly?
Yes.
Okay, or maybe a little more softly. So eagerly or so studiously, earnestly, they both were of religion and thus wearing out the doorstep of the church.
Mhm.
Or I'm not sure if that should be split up that way, or they were both wearing out the doorstep of religion and thus of the church.
I don't know. I was going to ask Bruce.
Yeah, I take it as the latter, and it's kind of just a strange construction. But I don't know what else you would do with that religionis, because you wouldn't say I would not. I've never seen anything like they were both people of religion, ambo religionis. I don't think that happens
Mhm.
in the Latin that I know.
Right.
So I think it's just this kind of, as Williams' notes suggest, this slightly awkward parallel of the doorstep of the church and therefore the doorstep of religion.
I guess
And maybe
showing.
religion is like true, complete religious understanding or something, so they're wearing away the entryway to that.
I guess maybe showing what he means by wearing out the doorstep of the church. He means that they're eager after religion,
Hmm.
is what he means by wearing out the doorstep of the church, I guess is what he's saying. In case we thought they meant that, like, they were in charge of cleaning it and scrubbed really hard or something.
Right.
That's clear enough. It's what we do with religionis that we're just a little
Right.
puzzled.
Right. I'd be much happier if religionis came after ecclesiae.
Yeah, me too.
And that's
Yeah.
what I thought. Maybe religionis could depend on studiose. They were so studious. They lived so studiously of religion. But I don't know if Latin can make a genitive depend on an adverb.
That was one of my.
No, I've never seen that.
I didn't think I ever had.
Of course, I've never seen anything remotely like this in really any way, so I can't offer a lot of clarification.
It's perhaps just a rusty tongue moment.
Right.
But so they were so studious, were they, that you would think them to be Zachary and Elizabeth from the Gospel, except that John was not in the middle, or John was not in sight.
They're amongst them, right?
Yeah, I think amongst them, yes.
Yes.
Between them. It sounds so incredibly vivid. You'd think they were Zachary and Elizabeth, but there's no baby John right there. It's like it's so physical sounding. But maybe just with them, they just didn't have him.
Or in their family, we might almost say.
Well, if it were Zachary and Elizabeth, then you'd see baby John. But there was no baby John.
I wonder if it's a reference to if they had pictures of the three of them.
Yes, that does sound like a likely configuration for a picture.
Yeah. It could be. I just looked up two translations on the subject of that religionis, one English and one French, and they both cheat on it, basically. The French says they both showed so much zeal for religion. And then the other one says, what does it say? They were so devout and wore away the threshold of the church. So that's just not what the Latin says.
I mean, the easy emendation would be Studio C.
Yes.
Right, that would solve all the problems, but presumably they don't want to do that. Wait, Bruce just went away.
There is only one man. I'm looking at Morales. Exactly one manuscript that does that.
Okay, Jamie, do you want to fill in with 2-3?
I would love to. Dehis cum curiose ab acolis quaererem. Concerning these, when curiously I asked of the neighbors, quaenam esset eorum copula, I asked what was their bond, matrimonii sanguinis and spiritus, whether of marriage of blood or of the spirit. Omnes voce consona, they all, with one voice, or with voices joined together, basically they all agreed that sanctos et Deo placitos et mira nescioque respondebant. They all responded with one voice that they were holy and pleasing to God, and um, and and remarkable, and something remarkable, basically.
Yes.
That's the best I could make of Mira
Yes.
and
It's kind of
Ishiokwai.
awkward, isn't it? You've got an indirect statement that they were holy and pleasing to God, and they also responded in amazing, sort of amazing things.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, I know a way that I would say this in my vernacular. I would say they said they were holy and pleasing to God, and I don't know what all amazing stuff.
All kinds of stuff, right? Good.
But I'm not sure you can use that in translating medieval Latin.
Well, it seems a little
Qua,
for Jerome.
qua cupiditate electus, enticed by this desire, or led on by this curiosity, I think he's referring to his curiosity. Adorsus sum hominem, I addressed the man, et curiosius sciscitans rerum fidem, and curious, and being curious, I inquired of the faith of things. I'm not making a terrible lot of sense of this, I'm afraid.
Truth.
Oh, okay.
I tried to find out the truth of things.
Right. Haec ab eo accepi. I got this from him.
One technicality, the curiosius. You get that is a comparative adverb?
Okay, if that's a comparative adverb, then it would be, and I inquired more curiously as to the truth of these things, and I got this from him.
Right. I always find those, because they just don't look either adverbial or neuter.
Yes, they're...
I find them kind of sleeper forms. It's just very easy to overlook them. Good. Any questions? I don't see any questions. I like the Voldemort reading. I have no idea what that means.
I think that refers to something a little bit ago.
Oh, good. Okay. Nice to see you again, Jamie.
Thanks.
Moving on, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. He said, my son, I was a farmer of a small plot of Nisibian land, alone with my parents, who, since, this is cum quas since, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Since I, as the lineage of the tribe, of their tribe, and the heir of the family, they were forcing me to marriage. I responded that I would rather be a monk.
Good. Yeah, now, in fact, I think, in fact, cum, if you just translate it, when.
Oh,
right?
When.
When they tried to compel me to a marriage, right, as though their son and heir, I said I'd rather. Sorry?
Okay.
We didn't hear you, Bruce.
I'm sorry, I'm going in and out.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Well, kind of badly.
Well,
In and out.
Yeah,
Yes.
Shice.
Sorry.
Yeah, there may be something going on with the internet here. Oh, look, Alexandre.
Alexander,
Hey.
Hello.
it really is the band getting back together.
Well, actually, I got a ping about 10 minutes ago, but I was watching I was lagged back.
I know. Sorry.
That's
I thought we might have some unseen translation, but I think we're actually okay. But you're welcome. I think you can just stay and hang out if you want, right?
Oh, okay. That works too. I don't mind either way.
You can just critique everything, and plus it's like old times. Lisa, do you want to keep going?
Cool. So my father, with so many threats, my mother with so many harms, enticements, persecuted me, so that I might set aside my chastity. This thing alone is proof. I'm not quite sure what to do with that clause. Because I fled both home and my parents.
I think the quad is just the fact that, right, this is the only indication that I ran away from my home and my parents.
So by indication, does he mean like the reason?
I think it's that, so if we go back to the quantity, so with what threats, with what blandishments they persecuted me, so that to forsake my chastity, this is the only indication of that, namely that I had to run away from my home and my parents.
Got it.
That shows, is what they're saying.
Right.
Is it the only one, or is it the only one you need?
Oh, I don't know about that.
See what I mean? This thing alone is an index.
Yes.
See what I mean? I'm not sure. Could be either.
All right.
Good.
And because I had not been able to go to the east because of nearby Persia and the guard of Roman soldiers, I turned my feet to the west, carrying, I don't know what little amount of provisions, which might defend me, however much, from poverty.
Yes, the tantum, I would think, is just sort of picking up on the small amount, just enough to defend me from poverty, from starvation, really.
Right, because I mean, after all, he is going to be a monk, right?
So a teeny tiny amount of food, just
hopefully poverty doesn't bother him.
Right, for
it's
what
starvation he's worried about.
Yes, exactly.
Do people know what viaticum comes to be in medieval liturgical practice?
No.
A viaticum is the mass you take right before death. If you're said to be dying, you take the sacrament, and in medieval Latin that's called the viaticum. That's your provision for the journey.
One for the road. It's terrible.
That makes sense.
On a far more pedestrian note, poteram, which you might indeed think is pluperfect because it ends in eram, right? Is actually possum is irregular. So isn't poteram is imperfect? Isn't that right?
Yes, poteram, poteras, poterat.
Right. The plain old imperfect, regular imperfect of possum.
That makes more sense.
Ooh, I didn't catch that.
Okay, good. So are we on to 3-3? And John?
Yeah, okay. All right. Quid multa. I looked this up. I think it means, what more should I say?
Yep.
What more should I say? Finally, I arrived at the desert of Chalcis, which is situated more to the south between Ima and Baroia. It'd be there.
I think the meaning is there is sort of it's situated between those two places, a little to the south. You know, if you draw a line between them, it's a little bit south of that line. That's what I took it to mean.
It would probably help if
translation.
we knew where these places were. At least I know I don't know where they are.
Well, they're in Syria, and you can actually. I Googled it. You can find it.
Yeah.
Berea is pretty famous. Ima I'd never heard of before.
Yeah, Google will give you a good map for that.
I'll have to look it up.
I don't know if somebody said that, Barolia is just Aleppo, right?
Which one's Aleppo? Is that Berea?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
The note says.
Okay, well, it must be true.
the footnote always wins.
Okay. There, with monks having been found, or once I found monks,
Excellent.
I handed myself over to the teaching of those men,
Mm-hmm.
Seeking food with my hands and hard work,
Mm-hmm.
And restricting the wantonness of the flesh by fasting.
Good.
Right, by fasting.
Good.
Post multos annos, after many years, incidit mihi cogita, the thought fell upon me that that to the fatherland I should make my way.
Mm-hmm.
And on the condition that my mother was living, for I had already heard my father dead. So I had already heard that my father had died.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little confused about it.
Wouldn't adhoc there, wouldn't it mean something along the lines of as long as?
Mhm.
So like while she was still living, that is.
While my mother was still
he's saying you better hurry up and journey there before she dies.
Right.
Because
Right.
she's.
Oh, I see. I'm a little confused by solare. Not sure what form this is.
It's a deponent verb.
Right.
So it's present subjunctive, right? Of solor to
Yes.
soul.
Okay. So I console her widowhood and exinde, I think was that subsequently,
Mm-hmm.
right? Subsequently, with her small estate having been put up for sale. So once I had put up her small estate for sale, ergo RM, I dispersed a part of it to the poor.
Mm-hmm.
From another part, I founded a monastery.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would do this.
Right, because this is subjunctive, so.
I was thinking that I would do this.
Right.
Yeah.
These are all ideas.
Yeah, Williams says these are purpose clauses, but I think it's probably just as easy to take all of them as potential subjunctives.
No.
After many years, the thought came to me that I might go home, I might do this, that, and the other.
While we're on that,
But the fact is that later on, in that sentence, he really tells us exactly what he did do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, by dividing up his what he inherits into these three pieces.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this seems like if it's all potential subjunctives, it seems like an awfully long way to think ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Right. Quid erubesco. So, which I blush for shame to confess myself impious.
Mm-hmm. Quid means why.
Why? Okay.
So it's just a very regular word for why.
Okay.
So why do I blush to confess my lack of fidelity?
Right. I reservorum. I I kept a part for my for the Solatia for the comfort of my expenses.
Right. Good. Yeah, in goes with Solatia, and then it's defined by Sumptuum Meorum, the constellations that consist in my expenses.
John did there exactly what I think you need to do, which is it's really about three different parts. So there's partem erogarum pauperibus, and then what John said is with another part I'd found a monastery. I was sort of looking for that alia in that sentence. I think you really do kind of have to supply it. And then really you maybe want to supply an alium for the partem in the very last clause. Too.
He's kind of ticking them off on his finger.
A little strange to me. For a moment, and the first time I read through it, I wasn't sure if he meant that it was two parts, one of which was founding a monastery, which was the same thing as giving it to the poor. That's exactly what John did.
Yeah, I took it as he's just listing off three parts.
Right, kind of ticking it off on his fingers. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Right. Before we go on, can I just redeem myself on Solare? It's an imperfect subjunctive like all of the other ones, right? It's the imperfect form with the ending.
Sorry.
Is once you say it, but it wasn't when I wasn't saying it.
One quick. Yeah, one quick question on my end. I was just looking at actually the same thing as Solara. So what does that mean that he's taking comfort in or consoling her widowhood?
Yes. Yeah, it is deponent. So he's consoling her widowhood. It's a kind of slightly, we would say, widowhood, but he's basically saying her widowhood.
Okay. Yeah, I thought for a minute it meant like he was glad that she was a widow, which I seriously doubt, given that we're talking his parents here. So I was just trying to clarify that detail. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, we know he's not all, but that's a fair enough thought. He's not all that pleased with his parents. After all, he ran away from home.
I see that Jen already corrected my imperfect subjunctive, which is great. Thank you, Jen. For those of you who don't know, Jen is the amazing grammar maven whiz. I would kill for that knowledge, but I'm working on it. Right? We just you learn it by trying to do it.
How do you get those comments, William?
If you scroll, take your mouse over to the left. Lisa taught me this. There's a Q&A little button, and you click on that.
Yep.
Google expects you to know all of those things. Google wants you to intuit everything.
Now it just says it's opening it, and okay, there we go. There we go.
Okay. John, if it makes you, and anyone else too, John, this is actually way harder than any Latin we did last summer. Jerome is much more artistic than a typical medieval writer, much more classical than a typical medieval writer, and he's writing quite complicated rhetorical Latin. I mean, Bruce, you said once that you thought it was kind of simple Latin for the masses, and maybe it is relatively speaking, but to me it's quite artistic and a little bit overwrought and kind of difficult.
You mean this Latin?
Sorry? I didn't. Jerome's Latin, yes.
Yeah.
And partly it's mostly a comment just in a much less academic comment. Just in practice, our truly medieval authors, like the Gesta Francorum and like Brendan, write much more straightforward, less complicated Latin.
Well, depends on who your author is. God forbid you try John of Salisbury.
Well, right. I didn't say they're all like that. I'm just saying the ones.
No, this I think this gets easier as it goes along.
Yeah, once the
The thing
starts.
is that, like the Guest of Francorum, it's narrative, narrative, narrative,
Right.
and not so incidentally, people are doing a great job.
Right. All right. Seagull, are you still here? You were here. Yes.
Hello everyone, nice to meet you.
At least I have a flower for you.
Oh,
Oh, I think we hear you. You just don't have your video on.
oh, okay, but you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the top of the screen, there's a camera, a little icon of a camera with a line through it.
If you have a video camera.
Yeah, I have a video camera. So at the top of the screen, you're saying?
If you move your mouse up and kind of hover near the top.
From the right or from the left?
Just at the top in the middle, there's a little sort of camera thing with a line across it, or possibly not with a line across it.
I think I had it, and now it's turned.
Yes, and then if you click on it, it'll turn the camera on.
Okay.
But if you can't get it, we can hear you just fine, even though we can't see you.
Strictly speaking, it occurs to me the whole video thing is unnecessary.
Yes, I've had successful Hangout classes without any video at all.
All right, then you could
I'm clicking it, but it's not. You're not seeing me.
No, it's sort of trying to get you in.
Okay, so I'll just stay with my voice.
Okay.
My abbess began to shout, "Temptations are of the devil." And underneath the dignified kingdom of the occasion are the cunnings of the ancient enemy.
Good. Before you go on, though, it's an indirect statement. So my abbot began to shout, "It's a temptation of the devil." He said it was a temptation of the devil. He said it was the clevernesses of the ancient enemy. Okay, and he said, "Hakase," this is what he said, i.e., and then he quotes the Bible. Keep going.
Yeah, okay. The returning of the dog to its own vomit.
Yeah, I guess it's the dog. What's the exact quotation? You sort of need the original context. It's
the dog returning, I think.
Right. I should print the original Latin rather than the English. So I think reverti is actually an infinitive.
Yeah, that's an infinitive.
It's the past. So the dog to return to his own vomit.
This is for the dog to return, right?
Right.
Right.
In the Proverbs, it's sicut canis qui revertitur ad vomitum suum. So Jerome is just arranging the forms of the sentence.
I find that quite difficult when they do that.
And of course, as Jerome actually did the Latin Bible, he can kind of do that, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
Right. Who if not he? Keep going, Siegel.
Okay. That's why there are many mystifications received among the monks.
I would say, again, this is still indirect statement. He said it's in that way, seek, that many of the monks get deceived.
Oh, okay.
And the indirect statement continues, and the diabolum, never does the devil se prodere, betray himself aperta fronte.
He doesn't portray himself from the front. This is what it means.
Yes, reveal himself with like an open front, with an open face. I guess.
Would it be face? Open face?
Yes, I glossed that. Fronte is really face. So that's that's a whole series of indirect statements in what the abbot was shouting. I think now it gets more straightforward.
He has showed me many examples regarding the scriptures, among them that of the beginning, which Adam, I wasn't sure if Adam is a nominative or it's
No,
also
it's
the word.
accusative,
Oh,
along
okay.
with Evam.
Along with Evan, yeah. So if there are accusative, this also means an indirect speech, or it's.
I think they're the objects of supplantaverit.
Yes.
So the devil.
So the devil was throwing them. He's the one
Right.
that was. Okay.
Yes, he was causing them to stumble. He's causing Adam and Eve to stumble, and with their hope of divinity.
Would you say that's an ablative of means then?
The stay, I would say, is ablative of means.
Yeah, the
Or possibly.
planta vera, yes, is literally the devil's planting underneath them. This word doesn't get used until much later, but he's undermining them,
Mm-hmm.
say,
I
with the hope of being gods.
Right. Good.
And though unable to persuade, was hurrying to kneel down. I didn't understand who is doing this now. He's going back to talking to himself.
No, I think
I think it's the abbot.
The abbot is praying, having fallen at my knees.
Falling at his knee. So this is a first person's speech.
I think it's I think it's still Malchus is telling us how the abbot was pleading with him not to leave, falling down, I think, and grasping his knees, Malchus's knees.
Okay.
Right, that's the normal way that you plead with somebody to do something, is you grab their knees and say, please don't do it. Or please do it.
Oh, okay. So he's grabbing Malchus' knees. He's not
Right.
kneeling himself.
Right, not kneeling himself, although he presumably had to kneel to do that.
Okay. Pleading that I would not desert him,
Mm-hmm.
that I would not destroy myself.
Good.
Good.
Nor after, while holding the plow, would I then look at the back? I didn't quite
Would I look
understand.
behind me?
Look behind me.
Right. And that makes sense only if you know the biblical quotation.
Yeah, I remember this is some kind of a quotation, but I don't remember what it means exactly.
Lot's wife, I think.
No, I don't think it's Lot's wife. It's not Lot's wife. It's
She was turned into a pillar of salt.
Right, but I mean, it may be an allusion to Lot's wife, but it's from Luke.
This is in the note that this is.
Yes.
Yeah. If you put your hand to the plow and look back, you're no longer fit for the kingdom of God.
Oh, right.
Right. I guess he had no tolerance for ADD people. Right. If you take your mind off the ball, you're in trouble. One teeny tiny point way back in the middle in proponebat. You translate it as a pluperfect, and it's an imperfect.
Okay.
And it's so easy. This is just something that's been bothering me my whole life. There's a tendency, I mean, because I do it too, there's a tendency as English speakers, once we get back in the past tense, we think we're done, so that we're kind of mushy on pluperfect, perfect, and imperfect. But of course, the Romans were very clear in their heads about which was which.
Somewhat freakishly clear sometimes.
Right. I think you translate actually as a perfect, as a pure perfect. I think you said had proposed. You have proposed, and it's imperfect. It was a continuous action. He kept on giving me lots of examples from the scriptures. So it's a small difference, but it's just that much more, I guess, that much more dramatic, but also just more accurate. That's what the Latin is saying.
I think that sense, And I think that's the sense of ab initio, because from the beginning that, it's not from the beginning when. In other words, it seems like that's the first example he gave. He gave a list of examples starting with Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess this abbot appears to know the Bible pretty well,
Right.
so I guess he started at Adam and Eve and worked his way down.
Right. Good point.
He would have made a very good 12th century theological writer.
Really? Did they like to do that?
Yeah, they go on and on and on and on. So you're no longer living in the imperfect, you're living in an eternal present, and it's agony.
Okay, I think you've got one more sentence.
Yeah.
You go.
Oh no for me. I didn't know what to translate by, but it's
Just woe is me.
woe. Yeah. Who suffer. I have won a bad victory while reconsidering that not my peace, but his peace is to be asked for.
It actually seems to me that there's a pun going on here with salutem being its peace or welfare, and solatium, this being the comfort or solace.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think he's saying, by means of a rather confusing pun, that he thought that the abbot was not seeking after his Malchus's welfare, but his own, the abbot's stuff, goods. We could parallel the pun in English with good and goods, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Or am I reading too much in?
No, I think it's definitely a pun with sol and soul. And of course, the point is that these are the bad thoughts that Malchus had. Malchus wrongly thought that the abbot was not thinking about his own salvation, but his own consolation, which was unfortunate, right? Why mihi misero? Okay.
What do we think the Pessima Victoria is doing it? Is that just exclamatory?
Mm-hmm. Or parenthetical.
Yes. I wondered if it was possible to take it as an ablative.
Oh, it could be an ablative.
I won by the worst kind of victory.
Right.
That could work.
Yeah, that could work. And I don't know how you're supposed to know. I find it very depressing.
One way to know, I guess, would be to read a lot more Jerome and see if he does exclamations. There's a depressing thought
Right.
for you. Well, yes.
Right. That'll give you something to do, Bruce.
Vai mihi misero.
Right.
Thank heavens.
Only misera.
All right. Well, thank you, Siegel. I hope you get your camera working sometime.
Yeah, I hope so.
So now I think we're on to Maristella.
I'm going to say goodbye, everybody.
Oh, good night, Lisa.
Right. Take care.
Right.
Nice.
See you again.
Okay, so therefore he escorted me out from the monastery, just as a corpse carried out for burial, and
that must have been cheerful.
Right. I guess literally, as though you were carrying out a corpse.
Yeah, like I guess, yeah, like going to a funeral, something
Right.
like that. And at the last moment, saying goodbye, he said, I see in you the mark of the brandishing iron or the cauterizing iron of Satan. I don't ask the causes. I do not accept the excuses. The sheep who wanders from the sheepfold is immediately vulnerable or open to the bite of the wolf or to
Yeah.
the wolf's mouth. I don't know.
Like the bites, right?
Um, uh,
Can I
Mm-hmm.
okay.
can I extremum? It is a little odd, as William notes.
Yeah.
At the last moment. It can also be at the last time. One more thought I had is that it could be at the edge, at the boundary. In other words,
Oh.
the abbot is escorting him to the edge of the monastic compound, which may or may not have a wall around it.
Mm-hmm.
So he says farewell right at the right at the front gate or something.
Right.
I don't know which, but I think that's a strong possibility anyway.
Yes.
I like that.
And the other thing is this videote sentence is literally, I see, he said, I see that you are marked with Satan's branding iron. Te goes with notatum.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, the notatum was kind of confusing, honestly.
Yeah, putting that "ite" there doesn't help.
Yeah. Okay, so proceeding or on the way from Beroia to Edessa, nearby the road or the public road,
Mm-hmm.
is an empty place, or I guess, yeah,
Mhm.
through which the Saracens, whose settlement is always uncertain, or with their settlements, their inconstant settlements,
Good.
roam from here to there or to and fro.
Yeah, good.
Um,
The Pergentibus,
mhm.
I took this as a dative for those going from Berea to Edessa.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm asking the group. I'm not pronouncing here. I wasn't.
Oh.
The alternative is it's an ablative absolute with the
For the
right.
Or
I think that's right. I think
basically that it's to the wanderers, it is this place. This
right. To
Okay.
those who wander.
Okay. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
And then I was thinking on sedibus incertis, would this be like they talk about episcopal sees and the seat of power and such. So in the sense, the Saracens, because they're wandering, their seat of power is always changing and uncertain. Would that be the sense of these references?
I took it meaning that they don't even have villages that stay.
Yeah, they don't have permanent settlements. Yeah.
I would be just thinking. I would just say they're them being nomads or something
Right.
like that.
I think that's
Actually,
really what it means.
right.
Since they're nomads.
This might help. There used to be an old idiom in English where someone with a house in the country would call it their country seat. I don't know if that actually still exists or not, but I know it used to be an idiom in English. So I think this might be seat in kind of the same sense, like where you stay.
Just any kind of dwelling place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's how I took it too.
Yeah, I think that's.
So then, for fear of them, the crowds or the groups of travelers gather in those places, or come together in those places, so that by mutual help they may avoid the imminent danger.
Good.
Right. One thing, though, that suspicio is at the beginning of that sentence is the subject of congregat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So it's fear of them gathering gathers together
Oh,
crowd of travelers in those places, right? Frequentium's the
okay.
object. It's the fear that gathers the crowd,
Together.
literally.
Which is about the strangest way of putting it, but
It is an odd
it
way of
does make
putting it.
sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like causes them to gather, or okay. And then in my escort or in my group, there were men, women, elders, youths, children, about 70 in number.
Good. We done?
Or maybe about 70 of them.
Yep, about 70 in number is literally it. That's right.
Oh.
Yep, and that's the end of Maristella's bit. So we're looking for Paula, but I don't think we have Paula.
No, I was sort of thinking that was kind of the end of the assignment for some reason.
I think some people added on to the end of the assignment because
Right. They were just
there wasn't room left.
they were so enthusiastic.
Okay. Well, since neither of them is here, that makes it fairly simple, right? Although I don't know Raquel, I don't know how far she meant to go.
Well, she's dropped out anyway. She's in Bristol, and she's in Bristol and doesn't want to get up, stay up that late, or get that early, or whatever it takes. We could go on at sight, but I sort of feel that with our late start, we could just stop here and declare victory.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Sounds good. And unless you want to have the old debate about who exactly are the Saracens, because we had that one last year, and it looks like we can have it again.
I'm going to hang up.
Is inclined.
We're going to talk about that.
I think the answer is different from what it would have been in the 10th century, right? So it's, but yes, we could just skip that one. All right. Well, I will try and spend the week working on the technology and mastering it again. Maybe we can do better next week. Yes? I mean, technology-wise.
Hopefully.
It's got to, I mean, sooner or later, Google's got to be able to be more intuitive.
Yeah, I know the slogan is Google, don't be evil, but apparently they left out Google, don't be anti-intuitive. This thing is just not intuitive.
Right. I was very happy to discover that techies think that they're unintuitive too, which makes me feel slightly. But
I'm not that dumb at this stuff, and this thing just confounds me at every moment.
Right. No, it's pretty weird. On a more Latinate note, I will try. I'd like to hear from people whether I should try and add these grammatical points, which I've done on the. I just did them very quickly on a revised text, going through and sort of identifying purpose clauses, ablative absolutes, indirect statements.
You saw Jen's message of like the three big things and then several others.
Right. I haven't read it thoroughly, but so
I thought it tremendously helpful.
Right. So if Jen and Magister Jones are out there and would like to cast their eye over what I post, that would be really helpful too. We can sort of get, we can, and anybody else too, if they've got ideas about. There are some constructions that I really find hard to sort of nail in grammar books. The various kinds of ablatives and some of the various kinds of uses of subjunctive. It's not as easy as it should be.
And unfortunately, William and I have the same weaknesses.
Yeah.
I'm no good at subjunctive.
Well, so I thought maybe crowdsourcing grammatical discussion would be a help. So I encourage people to take a look at them and send in suggestions. And needless to say, all of my comments in these texts are provisional, although, I do sit there with a dictionary, so at least someone has said it sometime. But it's these are not these are working texts, which I think will help. But anyway, I apologize for the rusty start, and hope we can do better next week. Thank you all for coming. Great to see you again,
Yes.
Jamie, Maristella,
Thank
and
you, sir.
Victoria, and of course John. And nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well, Christopher. Sigil, you're still there. Of course, I was forgetting you because you're just these pretty flowers. So thanks everybody, and I will talk to you next week, I guess. Right? We'll all see each other next week, maybe. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Does anyone know
Thanks
how to
so
hang up?
much.
We hang up on the red phone call. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Okay, see you, Jamie. Take care.